everybody. Welcome to the Potato Shop Podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Iron Dutch Murdoch.
So, we got a couple things to go over today. First and foremost, let's start with the UFC card this weekend. You've got two big cards, the co-main event and the main event. I think are going to be terrific fights. It's co-main event's going to be Tony Ferguson taking on Dariush.
Yes.
And the last fight that Dariush took on, and it was Figueiredo, I believe, and he was like, "Hey, I need someone in the top 10." He was getting tired of fighting, and I'm really excited. Now he's got it, and now I understand that Tony Ferguson is on a 2-fight skid, but he's still a dangerous man.
Fight, yes. Tony Ferguson's stand-up is phenomenal. It's going to be a dangerous fight, and Tony Ferguson's also, not only is his striking game good, but if it goes to the ground, he'll be able to handle his own down there on the ground as well too.
Right.
So he's not a one-dimensional fighter. And
right now, the odds have Dariush is the favorite over top of Tony Ferguson. And honestly, I think that they've got that one right.
Yeah.
Now, the main event is going to be to crown the new lightweight champion, Michael Chandler taking on Charles Oliveira. And Oliveira, he's on a win streak. He's been looking really good.
Yes.
Michael Chandler's been looking good.
Chandler's very intense. And, if you kept up with him in Bellator, he had very exciting fights over there. Came in UFC, made a big splash against Dan Hooker. But as we've seen time and time again, not to say Michael Chandler won't make a successful transition, but when these guys come from these other organizations and they show up in UFC, it's just a different game in the UFC.
Right.
You're fighting at a different level in the UFC. You know what I'm saying? It's a different ball game all the way around. And I normally don't like to to make light of these other federations and whatnot, but the UFC is the big time. I think Michael Chandler absolutely got the skill set to come in there and be a champion just like Eddie Alvarez did. But he's got a tough lineup in front of him. So
the lightweight division's a crazy division in the UFC. And I just read this morning that Kevin Lee is moving back up to welterweight, and he's challenging Mike Perry. I like Kevin Lee, and I think that Mike Perry fight, disrespect to Mike Perry, because he always brings a fight.
Yes.
But the thing is, he's had so much hit injuries and things of that nature. That's the problem. And he gets scarred up, and he bleeds so fast.
Yeah, Perry's going to reach that point where he's going to be like the Diaz brothers. He's going to have so much scar tissue that it's going to be hard for his corner. Well, and more importantly, that's going to be his challenge. For all the talent and skill that Mike Perry has, he takes that Roy Nelson kind of mentality, and he's not really working with a team. He's training himself. He's got his girlfriend in his corner, and it's like, if he's being successful with that,
right?
Imagine if this guy had a world-class coach and team around him that was preparing him for a fight. Man, Mike Perry would be lethal.
He would be,
because the guy, like you said, he is a fighter's fighter, man. He is not afraid to go in there, man, and trade blows. He always is getting carried out on the shield. But like you said, there is a finite number of times that can happen before it gets to be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Like he's only got so many times of getting carried out on a shield before it catches up to him.
Right. Absolutely. And his last fight, what a granite chin. he was just getting pounded on. But if he does face Kevin Lee beats him, because Kevin Lee he's up there with TriStar, and that's the gym at GSP came from, and that's an excellent coach. There's
Kevin Lee's looked really good too.
He has, and I know his last fight, it didn't go his way he wanted it, but with the right coach, and he could get right back on track. And there's 3 coaches, you got the Winklejohn, Jackson camp, you've got Trevor Whitman, TriStar, and there's a couple other ones that I know that I'm leaving out. But when you hear them names, you know you're going to get really, really top-notch boxers or fighters.
Right. I agree with that.
So, but in turn, they've got it. Oliveira is the favorite, minus 165 to I believe 125. The last time I saw, plus 125.
Okay.
Or was it 110? We'll go back and check it out. But let me just say, I do think that it should be a little. I mean, I don't know how close that is. I think it should be closer. I mean, because I don't. Chandler has a lot to bring.
I agree with that. I mean, honestly, to me, the Chandler Oliveira fight is a toss up fight.
Right.
You know, I could see both guys leaving out of there with their hand raised, and Michael Chandler he's an intense fighter.
So it's negative 134 for Oliveira and then plus 110 for Michael Chandler. If I was to make a bet, I would go with Michael Chandler. Just like that, since he's the underdog here, I think that might be an okay bet to make.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Since we're talking about fighters, let's talk about Donald Cerrone. You know, Donald Cerrone just got finished here in the first round. Over the weekend. It was past
Saturday.
Yeah, past Saturday. You know, Cerrone's always been one of those fighters, when you see his name on the card, you can guarantee you're going to get an exciting fight. You know, and he's always been one of them fighters. Cerrone, sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. We've watched some really great fights with Cerrone. One thing that's always been frustrating is for as good as he is, every time he's made it to the big fight, he chokes. You know, he choked when he got his title shot. You know, he got finished quickly. And then, of course, biggest fight of his career against Conor McGregor. And he got finished quickly in that. And, you know, it was funny because I really saw Cerrone, and I still believe that he is a dangerous fight for somebody because of his knockout power. You know, when he lets his hands go and he's got great kicks, the guy's dangerous. However, he's been at this for a long, long time. And he, right now, is currently tied for third on the most losses in the UFC. But now, of course, keep in mind, too, we're talking about a guy that's got a pretty lengthy career here in mixed martial arts, and especially with being with UFC. Because, you know, he came over when UFC purchased WEC. And so he is definitely he's getting on up there. But the point I'm going with this, and where I'm going with my spill here is, I think it's time Donald Cerrone needs to really look in the mirror and ask himself the hard question of, you know, what does he want to do, and how does he want to continue to be a part of the sport? Because there's no shame in transitioning from active fighter to coach. I mean, look at Matt Serra and his team. You know what I'm saying? They're phenomenal. I mean, you know, if you want to have a good team in your corner, get Matt Serra and his guys to corner you, man. Those guys are phenomenal. You know, and Matt Serra's a former fighter. You know, so he's been in there. He knows what's going on. And he's a former world champion. You know, Mike Brown, you know, he's now doing cornering. And, you know, Mike Brown, back in his day, was beating up Uriah Faber when Uriah Faber was on fire.
Right.
But I do think it's time for Donald Cerrone to consider riding off into the sunset. And I know he wants to fight. I think he wants to go out on top. He wants to go out with one more win. But, you know, let's be honest here. UFC's going to have to... I know the fight with Diego Sanchez didn't come to be, but that's the fight that he should have fought. And then that's when he should have said, I'm done. But they keep throwing in these young, hungry guys that haven't tasted success like he has. And these guys have a fire, and they're considerably younger than him, and that's starting to play a factor.
Yeah, in the end of the day, that's what it is. He don't have the fire like the young guys. Alex Morano, he was he's new to the sport. So I don't see, I really don't see anything else left for Donald Cerrone. He's had a shot at the title whenever he has the big game. And he even talked about during the Conor McGregor fight, because he said when he was he didn't even want to go out there. He didn't even want to fight Conor McGregor. So whenever he, and he said that, and so whenever he's in like these big fights where it's like either the title shot or leading to a title shot, it's almost like he mentally puts a blockage so he can't win.
Yeah.
And like he should have been able to beat Conor McGregor, or he should have at least gave him
been a
more.
closer fight.
Yes, there was absolutely. I don't look at Conor and go, "Wow, he is head and shoulders above Cowboy Cerrone," because Cowboy's great on the ground. He's good on the feet.
But let's be honest. When we're talking about Conor McGregor, McGregor comes in, he takes a fight with Donald Cerrone, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't Conor wasn't he looking at wanting to fight Diego Sanchez?
Yes.
So, what that tells me is this. On some level, Conor McGregor knows where he's at in his career. He still talks his trash and stuff like that, but he's picking guys, man, that are, longer in the tooth. He's picking guys that are, Diego's not going to be challenging for any titles. Neither's Cowboy. And really, quite frankly, neither should Conor McGregor. Because, Conor McGregor, you can't sit here and tell me that he still has that burning desire. He wants to fight, yeah, because he's always going to have that desire, because he's a fighter. But the truth of the matter is, there's a difference between being a fighter and being a competitive fighter.
And didn't he just make like $600 million off that?
That's what I'm saying.
The whiskey.
It's like, this guy has, what did you call it the other day? Fuck you money or
right.
Something like that? Yeah. So, Conor McGregor absolutely does not need to continue fighting. And I think that his performance against Dustin Poirier showed that.
And I tell you, his brand will continue to go down if he keeps losing.
Yeah, if he keeps going in there, man, getting two-pieced by guys like Dustin Poirier and stuff like that, yeah.
If you look at like a GSP, a Habib, they walk out on top, okay? So then in turn, now when GSP came back and fought Bisping, we've talked about this before, Bisping was probably going to, had it kept going.
I think Bisping was turning the tide of the fight.
He definitely was. And in turn, it would have destroyed, well, I don't know if it would have destroyed the GSP legacy, but it starts to tarnish if he continues to come back. People would have accepted he went up to 185.
Yeah, he went up to a heavier division.
Yeah,
he lost. Okay, that's fine. He's a welterweight. Right. They would have accepted that. But now if he keeps coming, if GSP keeps coming back, and every time he comes back, he's looking at the lights or he's getting, decision loss or whatever.
Right.
It's like Anderson Silva.
Right.
For as great a fighter as Anderson Silva was in the UFC, held there at the end, man, it's hard to believe Anderson Silva, of all people, was on a losing streak.
Right.
But he was.
Absolutely. So, but that's the UFC talk for this week, I believe. Because I think this weekend's card is going to be an excellent card. And I think, like I said, I think the two top fights are worth of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So let's talk. I was posted here recently about the Versace Robe curse, and it was showing how Conor McGregor and Jorge Masvidal and B.J. Saunders, who just fought. He just fought Canelo this past weekend in a very exciting fight. All three gentlemen have wore the same Versace robe, and of course, all three gentlemen have tasted defeat. What are your thoughts on that? It kind of goes hand in hand with what's that ESPN that one video game that's a curse to be on the cover of?
Madden Sports used to be, wasn't it, or was it a Sega game?
I can't remember, but there was one.
Right.
Whoever showed up on the cover of that video game
would always tank afterwards.
Usually went into a tailspin, and kind of suffered some setbacks.
I think it's a funny little thing. I mean, obviously, I don't know if that's really the cause of it. I mean, just look at their opponents. But I do find it funny that all three of them were... Billy Joe is the one that was really good, and he's in his prime.
Well, and he may still come back
Yes.
to challenge Canelo again.
Now, I don't see Jorge or Conor ever challenging for a title, unless Jorge especially is not going to get another shot. He's had 2 shots now.
Oh, not only has he had 2 shots, but against the current champion, he has been decisively defeated.
So the only way that he would ever get a shot at the belt would be if the entire welterweight division is in a plane crash and they needed just to crown a new champion. That's the only way that Jorge's going to get another shot.
Yeah.
And then Conor, once again, it goes back. He don't have no reason to go for it. I don't see him having that hunger, especially with, you got Charles Oliveira, you got Michael Chandler, you've got, just go down the list of people there. You got Dustin Poirier.
Well, the other thing, here's the other thing,
monsters.
So he was the first champ, but he never defended either belt.
But he didn't defend his belt from Ireland. He won it and he came to UFC.
Okay. So, I mean, the thing about it is it's like, I think UFC needs to be focusing on, first and foremost, man, listen, Conor McGregor wants to fight, sure. That's going to be big ratings. Again, he's going to have to start putting some W's behind his name because he keeps on hitting the L's, and I don't care what his name is, it's not going to sell. People are going to get tired of seeing it because all it's going to be is just him running his mouth and going out there and getting beat up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the thing about it is, I don't think UFC should have any serious talks with him as far as title runs, because if I was Dana White, if I was the UFC as an organization, I want champions that are going to be here and that are going to defend the title. All it would be is for him to go in there and say he did it. He'll run his mouth about he's back, King is back, blah blah blah. Then he'll vacate the fucking title and he'll never fucking defend it. So I say no. If you want to fight, that's fine. But you're going to fight guys that, you're going to fight marquee fights. You're not going to fight title fights.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. So, but no, the robe curse. Let's hope no one else wears the robe. But now, you said that
Tyson Fury has wore the robe and he remains undefeated. So, some of this curse, may not necessarily be as strong in other areas. What are your thoughts on the Mayweather Logan Paul upcoming fight?
It's a spectacle. I mean, obviously they're not in my demographic, but the Paul brothers have done an excellent job using YouTube.
Hey, listen.
And I'm never going to take anything away from... I mean, look at what Ben Askren and Jake Paul did. And then with Jake Paul snatching the hat off of Mayweather's head...
It's gone viral. And he's also started a clothing line. I mean, he's that's cheap, don't get me wrong. But if you go to Jake Paul's shop, he's got t-shirts, hats, beanies, all that stuff says, got your hat.
Who wouldn't? I mean, they're smart businessmen.
They are. And I'm going to tell you something else, too. Whether you like them or you don't like them, when Logan Paul showed up for that press conference there, he showed up on a fucking helicopter. Okay? And landed. Listen, people are hating on these guys right now because, now, I understand that, Mayweather is a pure boxer here. Logan Paul was on some show with Mike Tyson, and they just asked Mike Tyson directly who he thought was going to win between Mayweather and Logan Paul, and Mike Tyson said Mayweather, and of course Logan Paul, they all kind of laughed and this, and he said, well, you don't think I can get some shots in? And Mike Tyson said, you probably will get a couple in, because he said, I think Mayweather's going to let you get a couple in to kind of keep the story going, kind of keep the... So he admits that Mayweather is probably going to carry, Mayweather's going to do enough to keep the fight entertaining, but that he's never going to really put himself in a position to where it's going to be dangerous. You know what I'm saying?
And look at the Conor McGregor fight with Mayweather.
Yeah.
He carried that fight 8 rounds. He barely trained according to his guys. I mean, here you got Conor, who's... Look, he can train for 8 weeks. He can train for 12 weeks. But Mayweather's been boxing for 20 years.
Right.
So in turn, him just learning how to MMA box, like the subtle stuff. I remember they were talking about the corner, for instance, when Mayweather hit him, he could have took a knee, and if he would have took a knee, now he gets an 8 count. Then he can stand, and that way you can rest for a second. You can have him break it up. And that's what but because he didn't have anyone in the corner, they're like MMA fighters, and they were just saying, "Hey, just go in there,
keep going,
yeah, stay on your feet, fight."
Yeah, because there's no knockdown rule in MMA.
Correct. So in turn, no, Mayweather's going to win, and it'll probably do a couple million buys, and then the more people are going to be stealing it offline,
right?
Because the individual when Logan Paul took on the other YouTube star, which his name passes my mind, but that was second behind Mayweather and Conor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's insane. That 2 YouTube stars, when they were panning the crowd, they said that they would pan the crowd, and you would see like models and young people and all that stuff out there. Typical boxing, you don't pan the crowd and see like these young hot girls.
Yeah.
For the Canelo Billy Joe fight.
Right.
But being here or there, the other thing is Golden Boy Promotions is due to come up. Their their contract with DAZN is coming up, and they're now talking about going over to Triller. And that's the folks that put on the Mike Tyson fight and put on the Jake
Jake Paul Ben Askren fight.
Right. So in turn, and
DAZN was dead on arrival.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that got DAZN. I don't.
There was no content.
Right.
For you to pay $10 a month, you need content. When WWE came out with their network or Peacock or CBS or whoever, they have content. If all I got, my content is a pay-per-view.
Right. That you still have to pay for.
Right. Well, no, you don't have to pay for it if you had DAZN.
So they don't charge you extra for the fight?
No, so you would have been able to watch like Canelo for free.
Okay.
Because he's now with Eddie Hearn, and I think Eddie Hearn has something to do with DAZN. But once again, they're going to bump into that whole process of the WWE network, where they're going to be they could have made a lot more money with some fights, and then you should have been like, hey, just put on DAZN these fights, And I still don't.
I don't understand why these. I don't understand why these combat sports don't. Why they don't approach some of your networks, like when you have like really big fights.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Treat this like the Super Bowl, man.
Now,
you can't go to the well every fucking month, okay? The networks are not going to support that. But
I would rather put.
How much money do you think back when Triple G fought Canelo, they would have made if that would have been on, let's just say ABC? Treating it like the Super Bowl. How many people do you think truly would have watched it? Lots.
Right.
Lots of people. And they would have been able to sell ad space. And
I tell you, I would have the world champion. Like, right now it's Joshua and Fury.
Yeah.
You ask the normal average Joe, if we drove down the street and said, hey, who's the heavyweight champion in boxing? No one knows who the hell they are. But it used to be Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, or whoever. They used to know. That's why you need to get it back on ABC Worldwide World of Sports or Fox or whatever the case might be.
Right. Yeah, I agree. You take a big marquee fight, because imagine putting Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua on Fox.
Right.
Or wherever. You know what I'm saying? But you're talking, that's Super Bowl content right there, man. Again, I don't think that's going to be, you can't go to the well every single time, but I truly believe combat sports can be the number one sport above all. Above all. Because one thing, Dana White said years ago that I believe holds true. If you're driving by and you look over and you see a bunch of guys over there playing Doesn't matter what sport. You see them playing football, you see them playing soccer, you see them fucking playing basketball. Okay, you keep going. You don't feel inclined to rubberneck and slow down and watch. You see two random Joes start fist fighting on the street and people start hitting their brakes. They start rubbernecking. People start coming to the window to watch.
Right.
I mean, it's true. It does, and you don't know these people. But if two guys start fist fighting, you're going to stop to see what happens.
And you know what? Even if, and especially if there's like a big punch. Because
Yes.
I've heard the stories numerous times about the guy was going down the street. He was at the red light. He looked over at the convenience store, and this one fella hit the other guy in the side of the head, and he's out like a rock. And he just sinks. He falls, just crumples down. And he talks about it, every so often it gets brought up. And I said, well, what did you do? He's like, well, what am I going to do? I just drove when the light turned green. But he remembers it. And, so many people were just standing there watching this guy get punched out.
Yeah.
In front of the convenience store.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like, combat sports, whether you like it or you don't like it, can be the number one sport in the world, bar none. Bar none. And just whether it be boxing, whether it be MMA, whether it be kickboxing, any of that stuff. And the other thing is it's like soccer. People from around the world. I mean, look at the diversity in UFC right now. You've got African champions. You've had Brazilian champions. You've had Canadian champions. You've had Chinese champions. You've got American champions. I mean, they've represented the world.
Right.
So, but I think that in order to get there, you've got to give people access to it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you on that one. What else is going on? Oh, I guess the leaked footage of Diego Sanchez and his new coach, Joshua Fabia.
Yeah.
And, watching a demise of a guy, I know we just talked about him a few minutes ago when we were talking about Donald Cerrone, but just watching the guy with what seems to be some type of mental health issue getting hit in the face and training like he is, it's sad.
It is, and I feel bad because, Diego Sanchez is one of those guys that he's an old school fighter, kind of like Chris Lieben, where it was like, man, whoever you put in front of Diego Sanchez, it didn't matter. Sometimes it went in his favor, sometimes it didn't, but man, he always charged out there head first and just went at it, reckless abandonment. And, that's great, but it's sad to see people like that guy taking advantage of somebody like Diego.
Right. And for what it's worth, he was one who started the Yes movement that Bryan Danielson in WWE did.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Wow, that's crazy when you think about that.
Because I know they had made some mention, and I thought when it was on Ariel Helwani's show, and I think it was they were talking to Diego, and it almost seemed like he could have wound up going over there at the time, eventually.
Yeah.
But now I don't know where Brian or Daniel Bryan's going to go. But be it here or there.
So, Brian, real quick, let's do a little segment here I'd like to call Agree or Disagree. You may remember here a few years ago, that's back when actually MTV still played music videos. There was a little beef going on between singer Vince Neil and Axl Rose. And I remember specifically that Eddie Van Halen had said that if those two wished to fight, that he'd be happy to host the fight in his front yard and let the two throw down there. Now, my question for you, Brian, is I think that had the two fought, that Vince Neil would have beat up Axl Rose. Do you agree or disagree?
I have to agree. Vince Neil would beat up Axl Rose. I think Axl Rose he was very wary. We're talking about Axl Rose then.
Right. This, and if I'm not mistaken, this is Axl Rose before he went for Tommy Hilfiger's throat there in the nightclub.
Right. I was trying to think, wanting to make sure. I remember Vince Neil was on that celebrity show. Remember where you got a facelift and liposuction and took the dye out of his hair and all that good stuff. And I couldn't remember if he had any type of joint any joint replacements. I don't believe he did. He just had the facelift. But no, overall, I think Vince Neil would be the winner on that fight.
I would concur with you. I think that, but I sit here and I think about it too, man. But, as nutty as Axl Rose can be, I wonder if it would be one of those things where it would offend him that Vince Neil even touched him. Get your damn hands off of me, and like he would come at Vince Neil with just a rage unlike anything you'd ever seen before.
It's possible, but if you remember, he also wanted to fist fight Kurt Cobain at the MTV Music Awards.
Yeah.
And I think, now on that
now
fight...
that was funny because Kurt Cobain, if I'm not mistaken,
he laughed at him
and he said, the last time I was challenged to a fight, I was in elementary school.
Right. So, I would go with... I think Kurt Cobain would have lost that. That's the one where I think
Kurt. I think if
because he wouldn't
Rose
have been taking it serious. He wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, he wouldn't. Yeah, Axl Rose would have beat the shit out of Kurt Cobain because Kurt Cobain wouldn't have fought back like Vince Neil. Vince Neil would have beat Axl Rose's ass and then been like, "Come on, guys, let's go do some drugs and get some poo-tang."
Right, and write a song.
yeah, and then he write a song about whipping Axl Rose's ass.
So,
well, that's all I got for now.
Yep, I think that's good. Thank you all for listening. Please go to our YouTube channel. It's Potato Shot. And click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Go to our other social media at the Instagram is Potato Shot Podcast.
That's right.
And on Twitter, it's Potato Shot PC. So until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Iron Dutch Murdoch.
We'll see you later.